I'm Luke Kerfuffle, and it is a horrifying process to forget someone. We swear we won't, and we truly believe it, but memory, like all things, corrodes. One day you'll stumble upon a song that they loved, but their voice as they sang along will have faded into the music. You'll swear there's something missing, but all you'll have as proof is a pain you can't place, a feeling with no roots. Didn't their laugh have a certain tone? Didn't their head feel a certain way leaning on your shoulder? You won't recall exactly, but you'll know something's missing, and it will hurt in ways you didn't even know were possible. What if I told you that you could get rid of this pain? Would you? There are two entities whose presences hang heavy over the narrative of Deltarune: December Holiday and the Vessel. Each had promise never fulfilled, each had strong feelings attached to their existence, each was discarded in ways unknowable, and each was subsequently forgotten by all but a select few. Do you remember your Vessel? Do you remember how you felt about them? Did you consider how they felt about you? Or did you project those feelings onto their replacement, Chris, a person whose thoughts and feelings existed long before our presence tried to define them? This dichotomy between the player and the Vessel feels strikingly similar to the relationship between Hometown and December. She is rarely discussed, but this absence of words speaks louder than any could. Something is wrong here, and as the echoes of her presence grew deafening, I found myself feeling ever more disturbed by Hometown's willful amnesia. Why does no one discuss her? Why does no one honor her memory? In Undertale, there is a bridge. It looks out over water so dark it is indistinguishable from shadow. If you're lucky or unlucky enough, you will find a character waiting there for you. Their sprite is a grayscale version of Monster Kid, with two spikes, distant eyes, and a hollow look. If you choose to talk to them, they say this: have you ever thought about a world where everything is exactly the same, except you don't exist? Everything functions perfectly without you. The thought terrifies me. This character is what's known as a goner, existing Undertale characters whose sprites have been altered and whose appearance is rare and random, associated with the same hidden value that causes Gaster-related events to appear. The only appearance of a goner we have in Deltarune is the Vessel, their sprites labeled with the same moniker. This leads me to believe that the Vessel is meant to mirror a character in Hometown. Most obvious, of course, would be Chris, and initially, this theory proposed that the Vessel would have replaced them entirely, until I realized that naming yourself Chris prompts the voice to say this:
You are about to meet someone very, very wonderful.
The only other characters that get this specific response are Susie and Noelle. There's a larger list of characters that get a comment on what a coincidence it is if you name your Vessel after them, but two very important characters get no response: Carol and December. This, naturally, could be a symptom of Chapter 1 releasing so early on and these characters not being introduced yet, except for the fact that Gerson and Papyrus are on this list. These two characters also have no physical presence in Chapter 1. Gerson is introduced by name if you inspect the bench and his grave right beside, and Papyrus is only alluded to by Sans as his little brother, not even mentioned by name. It's the same with Carol being referred to as Noelle's mom in conversations with Noelle and Rudy. Des, on the other hand, is mentioned by name in dialogue twice. Once by Rudy when you inspect the angel in his hospital room, and again by Noelle if you tell her Susie eats chalk. This omission thus feels extremely intentional. Two names of two characters crucial to the story of Hometown, yet neglected from comment by the mysterious voice. What could this mean? Well, in Chapter 4, we get confirmation that Carol is at the very least aware of what's going on in the shelter, and at the very most directly responsible for it. Throughout the distorted phone call that alludes to this, there is discussion of the soul and its importance to the steps necessary for some as of yet unknown purpose. But the steps feel scattered, as if whoever's on the other end is figuring things out in real time. With how abrupt the discarding of the Vessel was, I think they are. In Chapter 3, the knight tried to beam Toriel away until Undyne showed up and they took her to the shelter instead. It feels to me like this team had a plan, one that involved the vessel, but with the soul's sudden placement in Chris, they found themselves doing damage control. I feel Carol is fully aware of this, painfully aware of the soul's importance, and for some reason feels a need to acknowledge that. As Chris is about to leave, she stops them and says, "My apologies about just now, Chris. As you know, you are welcome here anytime." So Carol knows about the soul, but are we sure she knows about its initial purpose? Well, during that phone call, the sound effect that plays is the same one that plays during the vessel's creation, which makes me think that this appearance indicates when a call is coming from the depths. The depths is a name derived from the background image used in the vessel's creation, the same one used within the dark fountains before they're sealed by the soul and the prophecies in Chapter 4. I think these connections allow us to assume that Carol was in some manner or way aware of the vessel's creation. This would thus make her exclusion in the intro make more sense. The voice probably wouldn't want to give away someone they're directly working with. But then what about December? Well, her absence is extremely in line with how she's currently being treated by Hometown. The best example of this comes from Chapter 2, where we learn about a spelling bee that defined Berdley and Noelle's friendship. Left as the last two standing, Berdley was certain he would lose to Noelle until one word caused Noelle to freeze up, allowing Berdley to claim victory. That word was December, which feels extremely and oddly negligent of the team that put together this list of words. Des probably disappeared not too long ago at this point. How could they think this was okay? This, alongside the fact that we have only ever heard Des's name from members of the Holiday family and Darkeners, brings to my mind what Goner Kids said. Their words about a world which is exactly the same except you don't exist. We don't know what happened to December. All we have to go off of is the almost non-existent proof of her existence. No grave in her memory, no candle for her at the church, just a family talking about her like she's still there, and a room perfectly preserved. Within that room are some of her only vestiges. We learn from them that she loved music, with her beloved guitar propped up against a closet covered in posters. She also clearly loved sports, with a well-loved wiffle bat crumpled in the corner and all manner of athletic footwear scattered about. Roller skates, ice skates, sneakers. But weirdly enough, the Holidays don't wear shoes. They're deer. They have hooves. There's a box of shoes fitted for hooves here, but we don't get to see them. They're discarded in what we can assume to be a junk pile, most likely never opened. The shoes we do see are clearly fitted for human feet, and with just how many of the same kind there are, it reads to me like someone with no knowledge of shoes desperately trying to figure out what would fit, something Toriel would do for Chris. We know the Holidays and Dreamers were close, but perhaps there was even more of a reason than collegiate camaraderie. Perhaps it was also because they had both adopted a human child. The only appearance we have of December is a silhouette of her in Tenna's flashback, where she has antlers and Chris has horns. We know Chris wore a horned headband to fit in, and Des could have easily done the same. If their ages at this time are anything to go off of, combined with how young we see Noelle is in the Spelling Bee flashback, we can assume that Chris and Noelle are currently around the same age Des was when she disappeared. The visual similarities between the vessel and Chris could be chalked up to emulation, Chris being inspired by the appearance of the person they admired most. I don't believe the vessel is meant to be Chris. I think it's meant to bring Chris to mind, but if the title of its sprite has as much weight as I think it does, I believe it's meant to be someone else. I believe that the vessel is December Holiday's Goner. When confronted with things we'll never understand, we can be cruel. Loss is one such thing. Initially, this theory hypothesized there was some sort of magic influencing Hometown, causing people to believe that December never existed, making room for the vessel's arrival. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there's no magic happening here. This is just what loss looks like. There's always an initial outpouring of love and care, but one which never lasts the length of time needed to heal, if healing ever comes. And once it ends, those directly involved are left grieving, trying to keep the flame of the person they lost alive against the winds of indifference that come from the broader world's discomfort with the idea that this could have been them. To a small town caught in this limbo between healing and denial, seeing the lost girl return acting completely different, going by a new name, looking ever so slightly off, do you think they would say anything? Or would they shake their heads, think at least she was found, and play along? I think this was the intent of the vessel, that the soul inhabiting them would have begun their adventure from the holiday house, taken the role Chris plays in the story, and proceeded through with little adversity, especially with the mayor in charge. And yet this didn't happen. The vessel was discarded. Somehow, some way, someone was able to do so. Why? Because of Noelle. Noelle is the only person who we see actively keeping Dessa's memory alive, shielding her flame, forcing the world to keep space for her lost sister. Because of her will, someone was able to intervene, to intercept the creation of the vessel and ensure her sister's memory would not be warped or distorted. And she does so very simply, by choosing to not forget. In the beginning of this video, I said there was a way to get rid of this pain, of that hollow feeling when you begin to forget someone. And that way is to just let go. The pain comes from holding on, from fighting to keep as much of their memory alive as possible against the inevitable corrosion caused by time. Deltarune is a game about memory, about the times we share with the people we love and how they can't go on forever. How eventually we will have to say goodbye to the times themselves, but not to the ripples they leave in their wake. Deltarune elevates the importance of not forgetting, of cherishing our memories, of building them a garden where they can stay and grow, even if it hurts, even if it feels pointless. We must fight for the people who no longer can. To remember is to fight for them. Thanks for watching.